The scanner passed every royal, then froze on the human, Crownless king detected. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with anticipation. Representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered for the quincentennial Royal Summit, where the most powerful monarchs in the known universe would decide the fate of countless civilizations. The vastness of the conclave's main chamber defied description. Soaring columns of prismatic crystal reached hundreds of meters toward a ceiling depicting the birth of the universe itself. Flowing fabrics in royal colors, crimson, purple, emerald, and gold, adorned the walls and draped from balconies where lesser diplomats observed. The air smelled faintly of incense and ozone, a blend of the sacred and technological that characterized the conclave's philosophy. At the center stood the verification gate, an ancient device predating even the oldest civilizations present. Its obsidian arch hummed with energy, scanning each royal attendee to confirm their genetic lineage, psycho-spiritual signature, and sovereign right to attend. Emperor Zoltan of the Andromeda Alliance stepped forward first, his crystalline exoskeleton glittering under the chamber's lights. 7 feet tall with an imposing crown of living mineral that responded to his thoughts, he carried himself with the confidence of one who commanded 10,000 worlds. His retinue of ministers and guards flanked him, all maintaining a precise distance as tradition demanded. The emperor approached the gate with practiced nonchalance, though everyone present knew this moment held significance. The scanner pulsed once with blue light. Emperor Zoltan Vex, 17th of his line, sovereign of the Andromeda Alliance, keeper of the celestial flame, announced the gate's melodious voice. Genetic authenticity confirmed. Royal lineage verified. Sovereign authority recognized. A pleased murmur rippled through the crowd as Zoltan passed through. The process repeated as monarch after monarch approached. Queen Shala of the Nebula Nomads, her skin shifting with patterns of starlight, received her verification with a gentle nod. King Dravthorn of the Obsidian Worlds passed through, his volcanic body temperature briefly causing the gate to glow red before confirming his identity. The pattern continued, verification after verification, each royal receiving their due recognition and passing through to take their seat at the grand table. In the shadows near one of the lesser entrances, Tyler Grant observed the proceedings with quiet attention. As the first human ambassador to the conclave, he understood his role was primarily symbolic. Humanity was a newcomer to galactic politics, barely a century into interstellar travel, while some civilizations present had been exploring the stars when humans were still discovering fire. Tyler adjusted the simple, gray diplomatic uniform that marked him as a representative of Earth's United Nations. Unlike the elaborate regalia of the assembled royalty, his outfit was pragmatic, comfortable, and intentionally understated. His brown hair was neatly trimmed, and his posture straight but relaxed. At 38 years old, he had the confident bearing of someone who had earned his position through merit rather than birth or political connections. Next to him stood Alara, his Meridian guide and translator. The slender, blue-skinned woman had been assigned to help Tyler navigate the complex web of conclave protocols. When all royalty have passed through the gate, delegates and ambassadors will be announced, Alara whispered, her voice barely audible over the continuing proclamations. You'll be called near the end, as Earth holds observer status only. Tyler nodded. And I just walked through the gate for formal identification, correct? Yes. The scanner merely confirms identity for non-royals. It's a formality, but an important one. On the main floor, the verification continued with impressive efficiency. The Grand Archivists, keepers of the conclave's protocols, maintained the steady rhythm of proceedings with subtle hand signals to each approaching dignitary. Supreme Chancellor Lorax, technically not a royal but the elected leader of the Confederated Systems, approached the gate. Though his position was gained through democracy rather than birthright, his authority over 300 star systems earned him a place at the Royal Summit. Supreme Chancellor Lorax Venn, voice of the Confederation, guardian of the Charter, the gate announced. Identity confirmed. Authority recognized. As the last of the major powers passed through, a subtle shift occurred in the chamber's atmosphere. Lesser nobles and representatives prepared themselves for the more rapid procession that would follow. Tyler watched as planetary governors, viceroys, and dukes passed through the gate in quicker succession, each receiving briefer announcements of their titles and authorities. Finally, the ambassadorial corps began their procession. Representatives from non-aligned worlds and younger spacefaring civilizations moved forward in order of their species' tenure in interstellar affairs. After nearly an hour, Elara touched Tyler's elbow gently. "3 more before you," she said. Tyler took a deep breath. Though he had rehearsed this moment countless times, standing before the assembled galactic powers remained intimidating. Earth's admission to the conclave had been controversial, with several elder races arguing that humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, and too young to participate in galactic governance. The Laxari ambassador, representing a species that had achieved spaceflight just 2 centuries earlier, passed through the gate. Then the Voltar representative. Finally, the Centauri diplomat, the last barrier before Tyler's turn. Ambassador Tyler Grant of Earth, called the Master of Protocols, a tall, gaunt being whose species had evolved beyond the need for names. Tyler stepped forward, conscious of the thousands of eyes upon him. Some curious, some dismissive, some openly hostile. Earth's rapid technological advancement had made many species nervous, particularly after humans had unexpectedly defeated a Draziri scouting force that had attempted to claim Mars as a mining colony. He approached the verification gate, its obsidian surface now familiar after watching it scan hundreds before him. The standard procedure was simple: step forward, pause for the scan, receive acknowledgement, and proceed to your assigned position. Tyler stood before the gate, back straight, face composed in a diplomatic mask of respectful neutrality. He waited for the blue pulse of light that had greeted every attendee. Instead, the gate's energy field flared a deep, resonant gold, a color no one in the chamber had seen it produce before. The hum of energy crescendoed, and several of the conclave's security personnel stepped forward in alarm. For 3 long seconds, nothing happened. The crowd's murmurs died away to absolute silence. Then, in a voice that seemed to reverberate with far more power than its previous announcements, the gate spoke. "Crownless King detected." The words echoed through the chamber like a thunderclap. Tyler froze, uncertain what protocol covered this unexpected development. The gate's energy field intensified, golden light washing over Tyler's form and casting stark shadows across the polished floor. Sovereign authority of highest order recognized. Lineage transcends standard verification parameters. Gasps and exclamations erupted throughout the hall. Emperor Zoltan rose to his feet, his crystalline crown flashing with agitation. Queen Shalah's skin patterns accelerated to a frantic swirl. The conclave guards moved closer to the gate, energy weapons humming to life. Tyler remained motionless, his diplomatic training the only thing keeping his face composed while his mind raced. Something was very wrong. He was no king, crownless or otherwise. Earth had no monarchy, and his own ancestry was thoroughly unremarkable. His great-grandfather had been a plumber, for heaven's sake. The Master of Protocols approached, his long fingers moving in gestures Tyler couldn't interpret. "This is unprecedented," he said, voice barely audible over the growing commotion. "The gate has never responded this way in 15,000 years of operation." Before Tyler could respond, the gate spoke again, its voice somehow both mechanical and alive with an ancient intelligence. "Genetic sovereign imprint confirmed. The crownless king shall be recognized and accorded all rights of paramount authority." The chamber erupted into chaos. Several royal guards formed protective circles around their monarchs. The archivists huddled in urgent consultation, rifling through datapads and ancient texts. Emperor Zoltan was shouting something in his native language, his ministers attempting to calm him. Elara gripped Tyler's arm, her blue fingers digging into his uniform. "What does this mean?" Tyler asked her, keeping his voice low and level despite the tension coursing through him. I don't know," she admitted, her typically composed features showing genuine alarm. "The verification gate is the oldest technology in the conclave. It predates all our civilizations. Its judgments are considered infallible." The Master of Protocols raised his hands, calling for order. Gradually, The commotion subsided into tense murmuring. "The summit will recess for 1 hour," he announced. "The Archival Council will consult the ancient records regarding this occurrence. Ambassador Grant will be escorted to the verification chamber for further analysis." Tyler found himself suddenly surrounded by Conclave security personnel, not as a prisoner, he noted with relief, but in a formation suggesting protection. Their blank, helmeted faces betrayed no emotion as they guided him toward a side exit. As he was led away, Tyler caught Emperor Zoltan's gaze across the chamber. The crystalline monarch's eyes narrowed, facets glinting with what could only be described as calculation. Tyler had spent enough time in diplomatic circles to recognize when he had become a game piece on someone else's board. Whatever had just happened, the political landscape of the conclave had shifted dramatically, and somehow, impossibly, Tyler Grant from Earth stood at the center of the earthquake. The verification chamber contrasted sharply with the grand ceremonial spaces of the conclave. Where the main halls celebrated power and tradition with opulence, this room embraced the sterile precision of a laboratory. Circular in design with a domed ceiling of some translucent material that shifted between opacity and transparency, it contained equipment both recognizably scientific and utterly alien. Tyler stood at the chamber's center, surrounded by a semicircle of archivists and technicians. Their urgent whispers and occasional glances in his direction did nothing to ease his growing unease. "Ambassador Grant," said the chief archivist, an ancient being whose species had evolved past traditional gender. Their name, HFY, was supposedly a simplified version that non-archivists could pronounce. "We find ourselves in an unprecedented situation." "So I gathered," Tyler replied, maintaining the composed demeanor drilled into him through years of diplomatic training. "I assure you, there must be some mistake. I hold no royal blood or sovereign authority." HFY's face, with its overlapping layers of translucent skin, shifted in what might have been amusement. "The verification gate does not make mistakes, Ambassador. It has functioned flawlessly for over 15 millennia, since before the founding of the conclave itself." A younger archivist approached, holding a device resembling an ornate silver wand. "With your permission, we would like to perform a more detailed scan. It will cause no discomfort." Tyler nodded, seeing little choice. "Proceed." The wand hummed as it passed over him, projecting data into the air and symbols he couldn't read. The assembled experts murmured among themselves, occasionally gesturing at particular floating glyphs. "Fascinating," said one technician, their features hidden beneath a hood. "The genetic markers are unmistakable, yet completely unexpected in a human." "The psychospiritual resonance is even more remarkable," added another. "Such a pattern should be impossible without centuries of line breeding." Tyler cleared his throat. "Would someone care to explain what's happening in terms I might understand?" HFY dismissed the floating data with a wave. "Ambassador, are you familiar with the concept of convergent evolution? Different species independently evolving similar traits because they faced similar environmental pressures," Tyler replied. "What does that have to do with me?" "The conclave recognizes legitimate authority through several verification methods," HFY explained. "Genetic markers that indicate royal lineages, brainwave patterns that demonstrate sovereignty capability, and certain, ineffable qualities that our ancestors engineered into ruling bloodlines." The chief archivist moved closer, studying Tyler with evident fascination. "Somehow, you possess all these markers, but they evolved naturally. Your species was not engineered for rulership as ours were, yet you carry the signatures we recognize as sovereign authority." Tyler frowned. "That's impossible. Earth has moved beyond monarchies. We govern by democratic principles." "And yet," said HFY, "according to the oldest and most reliable verification system in the galaxy, you are what our ancient texts call a crownless king, one who carries the sovereign imprint without the trappings of traditional royalty." Before Tyler could respond, the chamber door slid open, admitting Alara along with a delegation of conclave officials. "The Royal Summit demands answers," announced the lead official, a stern-looking being with metallic skin. The monarchs grow restless. HFY sighed, a whistling sound through their layered breathing apparatus. "We have confirmed the gate's assessment. Ambassador Grant carries the sovereign markers at levels exceeding 90% of our recognized royalty. The official's eyes widened. How is this possible? We believe it represents convergent evolution, ZenLYR replied. Humanity developed these traits independently, without the genetic engineering our ancestors employed. This will cause considerable political disruption, the official stated flatly. Tyler stepped forward. I have no intention of claiming any authority beyond my role as Earth's ambassador. This seems to be a biological curiosity, nothing more. Alara moved to his side. It may not be that simple, she said quietly. The verification gate's pronouncement carries significant legal weight within conclave law. By ancient statute, you now hold the right to speak and vote as a sovereign power. The implications hit Tyler with startling clarity. Earth had been admitted to the conclave as an observer only, with no voting rights or significant influence. That status had been expected to continue for at least a century. Now, through some cosmic genetic coincidence, he potentially held authority equal to the oldest empires in the galaxy. The summit has been extended to 3 days while this matter is addressed, the official announced. Ambassador Grant, you are requested to attend a private audience with the High Council in 2 hours. After the delegation departed, leaving Tyler alone with Alara and ZenLYR, the chief archivist approached him with what appeared to be concern. Ambassador, a word of caution. The recognition you've received will be viewed as threat by many established powers. Some may seek diplomatic solutions. Others, ZenLYR paused meaningfully. Others may pursue more direct methods of resolving the perceived imbalance you represent. You're saying my life is in danger, Tyler stated rather than asked. The conclave officially prohibits violence against recognized sovereigns, Alara interjected. But accidents have been known to happen, particularly to inconvenient rulers. Tyler ran a hand through his hair, a rare break in his diplomatic composure. Perfect. I've been an ambassador for 6 months, and I've already caused an interstellar incident by simply existing. ZenLYR made a gesture that Tyler interpreted as sympathetic. Perhaps not entirely by existing. There is something else you should know. The gate doesn't merely recognize existing sovereignty. Its architects designed it to identify those with the capacity to fundamentally change the galactic order. Meaning what exactly? Meaning, Ambassador Grant, that the gate believes you will alter the course of conclave history. ZenLYR's many-layered eyes studied him intently. Whether that change brings harmony or chaos remains to be seen. As Tyler contemplated this unwelcome prophecy, he couldn't help but think that humanity's first significant interaction with the galactic community had just become considerably more complicated than anyone on Earth had anticipated. The High Council chamber differed from the Grand Hall in both scale and atmosphere. Where the main chamber projected power through vastness, this room created intensity through intimacy. 12 seats arranged in a perfect circle, each occupied by one of the conclave's founding species representatives. The chamber's walls shifted subtly, displaying stellar formations that changed with the emotional tenor of the discussion. Tyler stood at the circle's center, feeling uncomfortably exposed. No translator or aide accompanied him, a deliberate choice by the council to emphasize his isolation. Supreme Counselor Vex, a distant relative of Emperor Zoltan, spoke first. His crystalline voice resonated with carefully controlled hostility. Ambassador Grant, the High Council faces an unprecedented situation. The verification gate's proclamation has created significant diplomatic complications. I understand, Counselor, Tyler replied evenly. I assure you I had no knowledge or expectation of such an outcome. That much is obvious, said Counselor Zaire, her gaseous form contained within an ornate environmental suit. The question before us is not how this occurred, but what we shall do about it. Tyler noted the shift in the stellar patterns on the walls, from blue to a tense amber. By ancient law, continued Counselor Thrax, his reptilian features impassive, the gate's recognition grants you full sovereign authority, equal to any monarchy in the conclave. Earth would immediately transition from observer status to full membership, with all associated privileges, including, added Counselor Vex pointedly, voting rights on all matters before the Royal Summit, veto power over sector development initiatives, and access to restricted technological archives. The implications were staggering. Earth had expected decades of careful diplomacy to achieve even a fraction of such status. I recognize this situation creates significant disruption, Tyler said carefully. I have no desire to upend established protocols or claim authorities beyond my mandate from Earth. A diplomatic answer, Counselor Zyri observed, but ultimately irrelevant. The gate's recognition exists independent of your desires or intentions. Counselor Thrax leaned forward. Several options present themselves. First, you could formally renounce the recognition, though this has never been attempted and may not be legally possible. Second, continued Counselor Vex, you could accept the status provisionally, subject to restrictions negotiated by this council. And third, Tyler asked, sensing the counselor's reluctance to voice it. Third, said a new voice from behind him, you could embrace the recognition fully and reshape humanity's place in the galactic order. Tyler turned to see a small, elderly being entering through a previously hidden door. The counselors immediately rose in a gesture of respect that surprised Tyler given their obvious disdain for his situation. Elder Mock, acknowledged Counselor Thrax. We did not expect your participation. The newcomer, barely reaching Tyler's waist, approached with a shuffling gait. Despite his diminutive size and apparent age, something about Elder Mock commanded immediate respect. His skin was pale gray, wrinkled with countless years, and his large eyes held a depth of wisdom that made Tyler instinctively straighten his posture. When the gate recognizes a crownless king for the first time in 7,000 years, Elder Mock said, his voice surprisingly resonant for his size, it seems appropriate that I take notice. He turned to Tyler, studying him with unnerving intensity. You are confused, Ambassador. That is understandable. You have stumbled into currents of power that predate your species' ability to make fire. With respect, Elder, Tyler responded, I didn't stumble anywhere. I walked through a scanner as instructed and suddenly find myself at the center of a diplomatic crisis. Elder Mock's face creased in what might have been a smile. Refreshing directness. The gate chose well. Elder Mock, interrupted Counselor Vex, the political implications are precisely why I am here, Counselor. The Elder cut him off. The gate's designers understood that power becomes stagnant without occasional disruption. The recognition of crownless kings was deliberately incorporated into its programming. This revelation clearly disturbed the council members. The stellar patterns on the walls shifted to deep red. Ambassador Grant, Elder Mock continued, the gate recognized something in you that transcends ordinary sovereign qualities. It saw potential for necessary change. Whether you accept or reject that potential is your choice, but the recognition itself cannot be undone. Tyler considered his position carefully. His primary responsibility was to Earth's interests, but he lacked guidance for this unprecedented situation. Any decision would have far-reaching consequences. I propose a compromise, he finally said. I will neither renounce nor fully embrace this recognition until I've consulted with my government. In the interim, I request observer status at the Royal Summit, with the understanding that Earth makes no claim to sovereign voting rights at this time. The council members exchanged glances. The stellar patterns shifted again, this time to a cautious purple. A reasonable approach, Elder Mock said before the counselors could respond. It demonstrates both prudence and respect for conclave traditions. I support Ambassador Grant's proposal. Coming from Elder Mock, this endorsement carried evident weight. The counselors, while clearly not pleased, seemed to recognize the diplomatic value of the compromise. Very well, said Counselor Thrax. Ambassador Grant will attend the Royal Summit as an observer, with the matter of sovereign recognition deferred pending consultation with Earth authorities. With one condition, added Counselor Vex. Ambassador Grant must undergo the traditional sovereign's induction before attending. If he carries the sovereign imprint, he should at minimum understand its significance. Tyler suspected this condition concealed ulterior motives, but refusing would undermine his position. I accept, provided the induction doesn't interfere with my duties as Earth's representative. It will be arranged immediately, Counselor Thrax declared. Elder Mock, will you oversee the ceremony as witness? The diminutive elder nodded. I shall. It has been too long since I observed a proper induction. As the council session concluded, Tyler followed Elder Mock through yet another hidden door in the chamber's wall, the elderly being moved with surprising quickness despite his apparent age. "They fear you, Ambassador," Elder Mock said without preamble once they were alone in a narrow corridor. "I'm just one human in a galaxy of powerful civilizations," Tyler replied. "What could possibly frighten them?" Elder Mock stopped and turned, his ancient eyes fixing Tyler with a penetrating gaze. "Change, Ambassador Grant. They fear change. The Conclave has maintained a careful balance of power for millennia. Your unexpected recognition threatens that balance. I have no intention of disrupting galactic politics. Intentions matter less than you might think. History turns on unforeseen consequences, not careful plans." Elder Mock resumed walking. "The induction ceremony will help you understand what the gates saw in you. After that, your path becomes your own to choose." They entered a small antechamber where Alara waited, looking relieved at Tyler's appearance. "The council accepted your compromise," Tyler told her, "though I'm apparently required to undergo something called a sovereign's induction before attending the summit." Alara's expression shifted to concern. "The induction is an ancient ritual rarely performed for new monarchs. It's said to be intense." "Intense how exactly?" Elder Mock answered before Alara could. "The induction connects a sovereign to the deep history of the Conclave, to the memories and wisdom of those who came before. It can be disorienting for the unprepared." "Is it dangerous?" Tyler asked bluntly. "All knowledge carries risk, Ambassador," Elder Mock replied. "But the ceremony itself poses no physical danger. Your mind, however, will never be quite the same." With that unsettling assurance, Elder Mock gestured toward another door that slid open at his approach. Beyond lay a chamber unlike any Tyler had seen in the Conclave, its walls covered not in technology, but in symbols and pictographs that appeared carved by hand into ancient stone. "The induction chamber," Elder Mock announced. "One of the oldest rooms in the Conclave, dating back to its founding. Here, Ambassador Grant, you will begin to understand what it truly means to be recognized as a crownless king." Tyler stepped forward, sensing that whatever occurred in this ancient room would permanently alter his understanding of both humanity's place in the galaxy and his own unexpected role in shaping it. The induction chamber's air felt different, heavier somehow, as if weighted with accumulated history. Soft illumination came from no visible source, casting gentle shadows across the carved walls. The room was circular, with a raised dais at its center containing what appeared to be a simple stone chair. "This chamber predates the Conclave itself," Elder Mock explained as they entered. "It was preserved from the first gathering, when the elder races initially formed their alliance." Tyler studied the pictographs covering the walls. Though alien, they conveyed recognizable concepts, figures in discussion, celestial objects, what appeared to be battle scenes, and recurring symbols that might represent treaties or agreements. "The history of galactic civilization," Elder Mock said, following Tyler's gaze. "Not merely recorded, but encoded in a way that transcends ordinary historical accounts." "You mentioned memories," Tyler said. "These aren't just decorative carvings, are they?" "Perceptive, Ambassador. The chamber serves as both historical record and experiential archive. The induction connects a new sovereign to this collective memory." Tyler approached the stone chair cautiously. It appeared simple yet ancient, its surface worn smooth by countless occupants over millennia. "The procedure is straightforward," Elder Mock continued. "You will sit, I will activate the chamber's systems, and you will experience a sequence of historical moments relevant to your sovereign imprint." "How long does this take?" Tyler asked, increasingly aware that he was about to subject himself to alien technology with only the vaguest understanding of its function. Time becomes subjective during the induction. What might seem like hours to you will pass as minutes here. The process typically concludes naturally when you've absorbed what you most need to understand. Tyler glanced at Alara, who had remained silent throughout the explanation. Her expression conveyed both concern and curiosity. "Is this safe for humans?" she asked Elder Mock. "Our physiology differs from conclave species. The chamber adapts to the subject," Elder Mock assured her. It has successfully inducted beings from over 3,000 distinct species throughout its history. Though not entirely reassured, Tyler recognized he had little choice if he wanted to maintain his diplomatic standing. He stepped onto the dais. "Should I prepare myself in any particular way?" he asked. Elder Mock made a gesture that might have been the equivalent of a shrug. "Remain open to the experience. Resistance only prolongs the process." With a final steadying breath, Tyler sat on the stone chair. Its surface felt surprisingly warm against his uniform, almost like living tissue rather than mineral. Elder Mock approached, pressed his small palm against a section of the chair's arm, and spoke words in a language Tyler's translator couldn't process. The pictographs on the walls began to glow with subtle inner light, patterns of illumination flowing between symbols in complex sequences. "Remember, Ambassador," Elder Mock said as the chamber's energy intensified, "what you experience is memory, not present reality. You observe but cannot change what has occurred." Tyler opened his mouth to respond, but the words never formed. The chamber around him dissolved into swirling light, and he felt himself falling, not physically, but mentally, into the collected memory of civilizations that had risen and fallen while humanity was still learning to use stone tools. His first coherent perception was of stars, countless stars seen from a vantage point outside any planetary atmosphere. He floated in space, yet felt no cold, no vacuum pressure, no discomfort. Only wonder at the pristine beauty of the cosmos spread before him. Then, gradually, he became aware he was perceiving through someone else's senses. His body. No, not his body, but the body he currently inhabited in this memory, turned toward a massive construction project. Enormous vessels surrounded a framework that would eventually become a space station of unprecedented scale. Knowledge flowed into him. This was the construction of the first conclave, nearly 20,000 years ago. The beings directing the project had achieved interstellar travel while humans were still painting cave walls. They had encountered other spacefaring species, formed alliances, resolved conflicts, and ultimately decided that prosperity required coordination. The scene shifted. Now he stood in a grand assembly, his perspective that of a tall, willowy being addressing representatives of a dozen species. Though he couldn't understand the specific language, meaning translated directly to his consciousness: unification, cooperation, shared governance. The foundations of the conclave being laid through careful diplomacy. Images began flowing faster, centuries compressed into moments. The expansion of the conclave, first contacts with new species, technological advancements shared among member worlds. Tyler experienced snippets of pivotal decisions, diplomatic triumphs, and occasional conflicts quickly contained. Then the flow stopped abruptly, focusing on a single moment with crystal clarity. He found himself observing a private council chamber where three beings, one crystalline like Emperor Zoltan, one gaseous like Counselor Zaire, and one reptilian like Counselor Thrax, engaged in intense discussion. The unmodified species cannot be permitted equal standing, the crystalline being insisted. Without the sovereign enhancements, they lack the capacity for true galactic governance. Yet they advance quickly, countered the reptilian. Some already demonstrate cognitive capabilities approaching our own, which only emphasizes the danger they represent, said the gaseous entity. Unmodified evolution produces unpredictable results. The crystalline being moved to a display showing genetic sequences. The solution is clear. We implement the protocol. Reserve full conclave membership for properly modified sovereign lines. Others may participate as observers and protectorates, but never as equals. Tyler realized he was witnessing the creation of the very power structure that now governed the galaxy, a deliberate decision to create genetic distinctions between ruling and non-ruling species. The scenes accelerated again, spanning thousands of years. Tyler glimpsed the construction of the verification gate, understood its dual purpose, to confirm legitimate sovereignty while identifying potential agents of necessary change. He saw the first Crownless king, a being from a species now extinct, recognized despite opposition from established powers. He witnessed the transformations that followed, the recalibration of power that prevented stagnation. More experiences flooded his consciousness, diplomatic councils, technological revelations, first contact protocols. Through it all ran a consistent theme: the tension between order and progress, between stability and necessary evolution. Finally, the flood of information slowed, focusing on a recent meeting, recent in galactic terms, though still centuries ago. Elder Mock, looking much as he did now, addressed a council of senior archivists. The stability has become stagnation, Elder Mock stated. No crownless king has been recognized in 3,000 years. The gate's parameters may require adjustment. The established powers prefer predictability, an archivist responded. They would oppose any change to the verification protocols. They would, Elder Mock acknowledged, which is precisely why adjustment is necessary. Power that cannot be challenged eventually becomes tyranny, regardless of how benevolently it begins. The scene shifted one final time, showing Earth as viewed from orbit. Tyler experienced a profound sense of perspective, seeing his homeworld through ancient alien eyes that evaluated humanity's potential with both hope and wariness. Then, abruptly, the vision ceased. Tyler found himself back in the stone chair, gasping as if he'd run a marathon. Elder Mock stood before him, watching with those ancient eyes that now seemed even more knowing than before. "How long?" Tyler managed to ask, his voice hoarse. 17 minutes, Elder Mock replied. A relatively brief induction, as they go. Tyler blinked, trying to process the centuries of experience now integrated into his consciousness. The knowledge felt both overwhelming and strangely accessible, as if carefully organized for his understanding. The genetic engineering, he said slowly. The established powers, they deliberately created a biological aristocracy. Elder Mock nodded. The Sovereign Protocol, implemented nearly 15,000 years ago. It ensured stability, but at the cost of genuine evolution. And the gate was designed to identify exceptions, individuals who evolved sovereign qualities naturally. Yes, a safeguard against complete stagnation, though one that is triggered less frequently in recent millennia. Tyler rose from the chair, legs unsteady. Alara moved to support him, but he waved her away, needing to stand on his own as he processed the implications. The Council fears me because I represent what they've tried to prevent, a species achieving sovereignty without their controlled engineering. Elder Mock's wrinkled face creased in that almost smile. You begin to understand. The gate's recognition of you is not merely about your personal qualities, Ambassador. It represents humanity's potential to disrupt a very old, very entrenched power structure. Tyler felt the weight of this revelation settling onto his shoulders. What had seemed like a bizarre, bureaucratic malfunction now revealed itself as something far more significant, a challenge to the foundations of galactic governance. What am I supposed to do with this information? He asked. That, said Elder Mock, is entirely your decision. You can attempt to maintain the status quo, as the Council hopes you will, or you can acknowledge what the Gate recognized and become the agent of change you were identified to be. Tyler looked toward Alara, whose expression suggested she understood at least some of the induction's significance. The Royal Summit begins in 3 hours, she said quietly. Word of your recognition has spread throughout the conclave. Every power in the galaxy will be watching to see what you do next. As Tyler left the induction chamber, his mind still processing centuries of compressed experience, he knew that whatever choice he made would have consequences far beyond his original diplomatic mission. Humanity had unexpectedly found itself at a crucial juncture in galactic history, with Tyler Grant as its unlikely representative at the center of forces set in motion millennia before Earth's first civilizations arose. The Royal Summit commenced with a procession that bordered on excessive even by the conclave's elaborate standards. Monarchs entered the Grand Hall in order of their lineage's age, each accompanied by courtiers, guards, and attendants carrying symbols of their sovereign authority. Tyler observed from a side chamber, waiting for his turn to enter. His position in the procession had been the subject of intense debate among the protocol masters, who finally decided he would enter last, a placement that could be interpreted either as highest honor or deliberate isolation. Remember, regardless of the gate's recognition, you are here as an observer only, Alara reminded him as they prepared to enter. The compromise reached with the council allows you to witness proceedings without voting or formal participation. Tyler nodded, adjusting the simple gray uniform that now seemed painfully understated compared to the regalia on display. Has Earth responded to my report? Not yet. The quantum transmission reached them 6 hours ago. Given the need for governmental consultation, we may not receive instructions for another day at minimum. A protocol master approached, his long-fingered hands making precise gestures. Ambassador Grant, you will enter now. Please follow the illuminated path to your designated observation position. Tyler took a steadying breath and stepped into the grand hall. The sudden hush that fell over the assembled dignitaries made it clear that his arrival had been anticipated. Thousands of eyes tracked his movement as he followed a subtly glowing line across the polished floor. His designated position proved revealing of the council's strategy, not seated with other observers in the gallery, but placed at a small, simple platform near the royal circle, yet clearly separate from it. Close enough to observe, far enough to emphasize his ambiguous status. Emperor Zoltan, seated upon an elevated crystalline throne, watched Tyler's approach with unreadable faceted eyes. Queen Shalah's skin patterns shifted rapidly in what Tyler now recognized as an expression of intense interest. King Dravthorn's volcanic body temperature noticeably increased, causing the air around him to shimmer with heat. As Tyler took his position, Supreme Chancellor Lorax rose to officially open the summit. Distinguished sovereigns, honored representatives, we gather for the quincentennial royal summit at a moment of unprecedented circumstances, the Chancellor announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. Before addressing our scheduled agenda, we must acknowledge recent developments regarding Earth's representation. Tyler maintained his diplomatic composure as the Chancellor summarized the gate's recognition and the Council's provisional decision. Throughout the explanation, he noted the reactions among the assembled royalty, some displaying obvious displeasure, others calculating interest, a few showing what appeared to be genuine curiosity. Ambassador Grant has agreed to maintain observer status pending consultation with his government, Chancellor Lorax concluded. The matter of Earth's potential elevation to sovereign status will be addressed at a subsequent special session. From his position at the royal circle, Emperor Zoltan rose. His crystalline form caught and refracted light as he moved, creating prismatic patterns across the chamber. The Emperor of the Andromeda Alliance requests recognition, announced a protocol master. Chancellor Lorax nodded. The Emperor is recognized. Esteemed colleagues, Zoltan began, his voice resonating with harmonics impossible for organic vocal cords. While I respect the Council's provisional decision, we must address the unprecedented nature of this situation directly. For 15,000 years, the Sovereign Protocol has ensured stable governance through careful biological regulation. Ambassador Grant's recognition represents a fundamental challenge to this established order. Murmurs of agreement spread through portions of the assembly. Tyler noted which delegations seemed most supportive of the Emperor's position. I propose, Zoltan continued, that we convene a special committee to examine the verification gate's parameters. It seems reasonable to consider whether a system designed millennia ago remains appropriate for our current galactic reality. The political maneuvering was transparent to Tyler after his induction experience. Zoltan sought to undermine the gate's authority without directly challenging Tyler's recognition, a subtle approach that would preserve stability while neutralizing the perceived threat. Before the Chancellor could respond, Queen Shalah rose from her liquid-filled environmental chamber. Her form, composed of constantly shifting luminescent patterns resembling stellar formations, stabilized into a formal configuration. The Queen of the Nebula Nomads requests recognition, announced her attendant. The Queen is recognized, Chancellor Lorax acknowledged. While Emperor Zoltan raises valid concerns, Queen Shalah's melodic voice flowed through her translator. I suggest an alternative approach. If Ambassador Grant carries sovereign markers as the gate detected, this represents a scientific and evolutionary phenomenon of significant interest. Rather than questioning the gate, we should study humanity more closely to understand this development. Tyler recognized this gambit as well, positioning humans as subjects for study rather than equal participants. The Queen's apparent scientific interest masked a political strategy no less effective than the Emperor's more direct approach. Chancellor Lorax surveyed the assembly. Both proposals merit consideration. Before we proceed to discussion, are there other perspectives to be heard? To Tyler's surprise, Elder Mock emerged from a side entrance, making his way slowly toward the central speaking position. His appearance caused a ripple of whispers throughout the chamber. Elder Mock requests recognition, announced a visibly startled protocol master. The Elder is always recognized. Chancellor Lorax responded with evident respect. Elder Mock's diminutive form stood in stark contrast to the imposing figures of the assembled royalty, yet his presence commanded attention beyond his physical stature. "Distinguished sovereigns," he began, his surprisingly powerful voice filling the chamber without amplification. "I have observed 3,000 years of conclave governance. In that time, I have witnessed 17 major reforms, 42 succession crises, and 3 complete restructurings of our political framework." The assembly grew utterly silent as the ancient being continued. Each period of significant change was preceded by resistance. Each necessary evolution faced opposition from those most invested in the existing order. And each time, the conclave emerged stronger for having adapted rather than calcified. Elder Mock turned slightly to face the section where Emperor Zoltan and his allies sat. The verification gate was designed by beings wiser than any present here, including myself. Its recognition of crownless kings was not an oversight but a deliberate feature, ensuring that our governance remains vital rather than merely persistent. He then shifted to address the entire assembly. Ambassador Grant's recognition is not a malfunction to be corrected or an anomaly to be studied. It is precisely what the gate's designers intended, a signal that evolution continues beyond our careful engineering, that the universe remains wider than our attempts to contain it. The impact of Elder Mock's words was palpable. Many of the younger royals appeared thoughtful, while the more established powers showed signs of discomfort. "I propose," Elder Mock concluded, "that we honor our founder's wisdom by acknowledging the gate's recognition as valid and meaningful. Ambassador Grant should be afforded the respect due his position, whether he chooses to fully claim it or not." Chancellor Lorax seemed momentarily at a loss for how to proceed following Elder Mock's unexpected intervention. The Elder's wisdom is, as always, appreciated. We shall now open the floor for discussion of these 3 approaches. What followed was 2 hours of increasingly pointed debate. Various factions aligned themselves with either Emperor Zoltan's technical challenge, Queen Shalah's scientific approach, or Elder Mock's traditionalist acceptance. Tyler observed carefully, noting which powers supported each position and how their alignments reflected deeper political currents within the conclave. Throughout the discussion, he remained silent, aware that any statement would be scrutinized for implications beyond his intent. His induction experience had given him insight into the layered meanings behind seemingly straightforward diplomatic language, allowing him to track the real conversation happening beneath the formal exchanges. Finally, Chancellor Lorax called for a provisional resolution. Having heard all perspectives, the chair proposes the following. Ambassador Grant will retain his observer status for the duration of this summit. Concurrently, a special committee will evaluate the implications of the gate's recognition, with equal representation from all major factions. Earth's government will be afforded reasonable time to provide input regarding their position. The proposal represented a classic diplomatic compromise, acknowledging all positions while committing firmly to none. Tyler recognized it as a delaying tactic, but one that would at least prevent immediate hostile action against Earth's interests. "Those in favor?" the Chancellor asked. A majority of the sovereign representatives indicated their assent, though Tyler noted Emperor Zoltan and several of his closest allies abstained rather than openly oppose. "The resolution is adopted," Chancellor Lorax declared. "We shall now proceed to our scheduled agenda, beginning with the Sector 7 development proposal." As the summit shifted to routine matters, Tyler felt a presence beside him. Elder Mock had approached his observation platform and now stood quietly watching the proceedings. "A temporary solution," the ancient being commented softly. "It buys time but resolves nothing." "Sometimes time is the most valuable resource in diplomacy," Tyler replied. Elder Mock's wrinkled face creased in that now familiar almost smile. Indeed, though I suspect events may not allow for leisurely deliberation. Word of your recognition has already spread beyond the conclave. Various factions will be calculating how to best position themselves for whatever comes next. What would you recommend? Tyler asked, genuinely curious about the perspective of someone who had observed galactic politics for millennia. I recommend you listen carefully to what is not being said, Elder Mock answered cryptically, particularly in tonight's informal gatherings. The true positions of the major powers will be revealed not in this chamber, but in the social interactions that follow. With that advice, the ancient being shuffled away, leaving Tyler to contemplate the complex political web into which humanity had unexpectedly become entangled. The first day's formal proceedings concluded with little further reference to Tyler's situation, though he felt the weight of constant observation as delegates periodically glanced in his direction throughout the discussions of trade routes, resource claims, and minor border disputes. As the assembly dispersed for the evening, Elara approached his platform. "You've been invited to 7 different diplomatic receptions tonight," she informed him, including one hosted by Emperor Zoltan and another by Queen Shala. Tyler raised an eyebrow. "Competing invitations from the 2 powers most concerned about my recognition?" "Exactly. Your choice of which to attend first, or at all, will be interpreted as a significant diplomatic signal." He considered briefly. "We'll attend both, starting with the Emperor's. His faction seems the most immediately oppositional, so better to address that directly." As they exited the Grand Hall, Tyler noticed several delegates from smaller powers attempting to position themselves near him, clearly hoping for informal conversation. The political calculation was obvious. If humans might suddenly hold significant influence, establishing early relationships could prove advantageous. Before any could approach, however, a delegation of crystalline beings intercepted Tyler and Elara. "Ambassador Grant," said the lead figure, a slightly smaller version of Emperor Zoltan with fewer facets to his exoskeleton. "I am Prince Vexer, second scion of the Emperor. My father requests the honor of your company at his reception immediately." The phrasing, request rather than invitation, and the sending of a direct blood relative rather than a courtier suggested the Emperor considered this a high-priority diplomatic maneuver. "Please convey to His Imperial Majesty that I would be honored to attend," Tyler responded formally. Prince Vexer inclined his crystalline head, facets glinting under the corridor's lights. "Our transport awaits. The Emperor's temporary residence is located in the diplomatic quarter." Tyler and Elara followed the prince to a hovering vehicle whose design emphasized both luxury and security. As they settled into seats that adjusted to their physiologies, Tyler noted the subtle positioning of security personnel, not overtly threatening, but definitely present. "The Emperor has expressed particular interest in Earth's development," Prince Vexer commented as the transport departed. "Your species' rapid technological advancement from planetary to interstellar capabilities is almost unprecedented." "We've had excellent teachers," Tyler replied diplomatically. "The Meridian delegation that first contacted Earth provided valuable guidance." "Indeed, though one wonders if perhaps they should have guided more slowly." The prince's tone remained pleasant, but the implication was clear. Humanity's quick rise was viewed with suspicion. The transport soon arrived at a structure that seemed to have been specifically constructed for the Emperor's visit. Its crystalline architecture echoed the monarch's own physical form, with geometric precision that somehow conveyed both beauty and power. Inside, Tyler found himself immersed in the cultural expressions of the Andromeda Alliance. Harmonic music played by instruments that manipulated light as well as sound filled the air. Courtiers and diplomats from dozens of worlds moved through conversation patterns that Tyler recognized from his induction as formalized social rituals rather than random mingling. "Ambassador Grant," announced a court official as Tyler entered the main reception chamber, representative of Earth and recognized by the gate. The deliberate addition of that second title drew immediate attention. Conversations paused briefly as attendees turned to observe his arrival. Emperor Zoltan, positioned at the chamber's center upon a raised dais, inclined his head in acknowledgement. "Approach, Ambassador," the Emperor's harmonic voice commanded. Tyler moved forward, conscious of being observed from all sides. He stopped at the precise distance that protocol demanded, close enough for conversation, far enough to show appropriate deference. Your Majesty, Tyler greeted with a formal bow calculated to show respect without submission. Welcome to my temporary court, Emperor Zoltan responded. I trust you find the Conclave's accommodations satisfactory for your first interstellar diplomatic mission? The subtle emphasis on first reminded all listening that humans were newcomers to galactic politics. The Conclave's hospitality has been exemplary, Tyler replied evenly. Though recent developments have certainly made my mission more complex than anticipated. The Emperor's faceted eyes glinted with what might have been amusement. Indeed, few ambassadors find themselves at the center of such constitutional questions merely by passing through a doorway. Several courtiers tittered appropriately at the monarch's wit. I assure your Majesty that creating diplomatic complications was not on my agenda, Tyler said with a carefully measured smile. Of course not. Yet complications have arisen nonetheless. The Emperor gestured, dismissing nearby attendants to create a semblance of privacy. Tell me, Ambassador Grant, what does your government intend to do regarding the gate's recognition? The directness of the question confirmed Tyler's suspicion that this reception was primarily a fact-finding mission. My government is still formulating its response, Tyler answered truthfully. Earth has no interest in disrupting established conclave protocols. Our primary goal remains building constructive relationships with all galactic civilizations. A diplomatic answer, the Emperor observed. Yet the situation may demand more definitive action. The gate's recognition, if allowed to stand unchallenged, would instantly elevate Earth from observer status to full sovereign membership, bypassing centuries of the usual integration process. I understand the precedent concerns your Majesty. Not merely the precedent, Ambassador. The Emperor's voice lowered, harmonics shifting to frequencies that conveyed seriousness. Consider the stability of the galactic order. For 15 millennia, transitions of power have occurred through carefully managed processes. Sudden disruptions risk conflicts that could affect billions of lives across thousands of worlds. Tyler recognized the implicit threat beneath the expressed concern for stability. Earth has no desire for conflict, Your Majesty. We seek only appropriate recognition of our civilization's development and potential contributions to the galactic community. Noble sentiments, the Emperor replied. Though one might observe that appropriate recognition typically aligns with established protocols rather than exceptional circumstances. Before Tyler could respond, Prince Vexor approached, accompanied by a delegation of beings Tyler recognized as representatives of the Emperor's closest allied worlds. Father, the Trilaxian ambassador requests a moment of your attention, the prince announced, effectively ending the private conversation. Emperor Zoltan inclined his head slightly to Tyler. We shall continue our discussion another time, Ambassador. Please enjoy the hospitality of my court. As the Emperor turned to his allies, Tyler found himself smoothly guided away by court officials, directed toward a section of the reception where representatives of mid-tier powers had gathered. The message was clear. The Emperor had extracted what information he could and now considered Tyler worth only the attention due a minor diplomatic figure. Alara, who had remained at a respectful distance during the exchange, rejoined Tyler as he navigated the reception. The Emperor seems concerned but not overtly hostile, she observed quietly. He's calculating the political implications, Tyler responded. Trying to determine whether Earth represents a genuine threat to the established order or merely an anomaly that can be managed through conventional diplomatic means. And his conclusion? Undecided, I think. He's positioning himself to respond either way. Tyler accepted an offered beverage from a passing server, quickly scanning it with the discreet analyzer built into his sleeve cuff. A precaution Earth's security advisors had insisted upon. How much longer should we remain here before attending Queen Shala's reception? Another 30 minutes would be diplomatically appropriate, Alara advised. Though I should warn you, the Queen's gathering will likely involve more direct scientific scrutiny than political maneuvering. Tyler nodded, taking a careful sip of the liquid, which tasted something like mineral water with complex herbal undertones. From experimental subject to political chess piece. Not exactly the diplomatic role I trained for. Few diplomats find themselves at the center of galactic constitutional crises, Ilera observed with a hint of wry humor. Particularly not during their first assignment. They spent the next half hour engaged in careful conversations with various delegates, all of whom seemed eager to establish connections with Earth's representative while simultaneously assessing whether such connections might prove valuable or problematic in the future. Tyler noted which powers seemed most interested, which most wary, building a mental map of potential allies and opponents. After making appropriate farewells to Prince Vexer, the Emperor having already moved to other matters, they departed for Queen Shala's reception, held in a dramatically different setting, where the Emperor's gathering emphasized structured hierarchy and formal interactions. The Queen's reception took place in a vast biodome containing recreated environments from dozens of worlds. Ambassador Grant of Earth, recognized by the gate, announced the Queen's herald, a being composed primarily of organized gas patterns similar to the Queen herself. Queen Shala floated toward them in her environmental containment field, her luminescent form shifting through patterns that Tyler now recognized as formal greeting configurations. Ambassador, your presence honors us. The Queen's melodic voice emerged from her translator. I hope you will find our gathering more comfortable than the Emperor's rather rigid affairs. The subtle dig at her political rival confirmed Tyler's suspicion that he had become a focal point for existing tensions between major powers. Your Majesty's hospitality is extraordinary, he replied, gesturing to the remarkable biodome. I've never seen so many diverse ecosystems successfully integrated. The Nebula nomads value adaptation and harmonious integration, the Queen explained. Unlike some who prefer rigid structures, we recognize that the most successful biological systems embrace diversity and change. The political message beneath the scientific observation wasn't subtle. A perspective humanity shares, Tyler responded carefully. Earth's own ecosystems demonstrate remarkable adaptability. Yes, your planet's biological diversity is quite fascinating, Queen Shala said, her form shifting to patterns indicating scientific interest, as are your species' own unique adaptations. Tell me, Ambassador, has your government conducted studies into why humans might carry genetic markers similar to engineered sovereign lineages? The directness of the question surprised Tyler, though he maintained his diplomatic composure. Not specifically, Your Majesty. Until the gate's recognition, we had no knowledge such markers existed. Yet they must have evolved naturally in your species, the Queen continued. A remarkable case of convergent evolution, or perhaps something more deliberate. Tyler caught the implication immediately. If you're suggesting some ancient intervention in human development, I assure you our genetic science shows a clear evolutionary path from early primates. Of course, the Queen's patterns shifted to what might have been the equivalent of a diplomatic smile. Though the galaxy holds many mysteries, some ancient spacefaring civilizations left few records of their activities. Before Tyler could respond to this speculation, the Queen changed topics with fluid grace. Several of my scientific advisors have expressed interest in discussing potential collaborative research with Earth representatives. Perhaps such partnerships could illuminate the unusual qualities the gate detected in you. Tyler recognized the offer for what it was, an attempt to position humans as subjects for study rather than equal participants in galactic politics. Earth would certainly welcome scientific exchange, Your Majesty, though our primary focus remains establishing balanced diplomatic relations across the conclave. The Queen's patterns shifted in what Tyler interpreted as slight disappointment. Balance is valuable, certainly, though I find truth often emerges more readily from focused inquiry than diplomatic equilibrium. Their conversation continued in this vein, the Queen probing for information about human genetics and development, Tyler maintaining careful diplomatic boundaries while seeking to understand the Queen's true objectives. Unlike Emperor Zoltan's approach of implied threat, Queen Shala pursued a strategy of scientific curiosity, potentially masking more pragmatic political goals. After appropriate time spent with the Queen, Tyler circulated through her reception, engaging with representatives from worlds aligned with the Nebula nomads. He noticed a pattern. Many expressed scientific interest in humanity while subtly gathering intelligence about Earth's capabilities and intentions. As they finally departed the Queen's reception, Alara observed two distinct approaches to the same problem. The Emperor seeks to contain the political implications of your recognition, while the Queen attempts to understand and potentially control the underlying phenomenon. Both want the same thing, Tyler concluded: to neutralize any threat to the established order, just through different methods. And both underestimate humanity, Alara added unexpectedly. Neither seems to consider that Earth might have legitimate contributions to offer the Conclave beyond being either a problem to manage or a curiosity to study. Tyler glanced at her with renewed interest. Throughout their diplomatic mission, Alara had maintained careful neutrality, providing cultural and procedural guidance without expressing personal views. This comment suggested more complex perspectives. "Do you believe Earth deserves the sovereign recognition the gate indicated?" he asked directly. Alara hesitated before responding. "My personal opinion is irrelevant to my function as your guide, but I will observe that the gate has functioned flawlessly for 15 millennia, recognizing legitimate authority across thousands of species. Its assessment of you, and by extension, humanity, should not be dismissed merely because it disrupts comfortable assumptions." Her response gave Tyler much to consider as they returned to his assigned quarters. The day's events had clarified the political landscape somewhat, but tomorrow's summit session would likely bring new challenges as various factions positioned themselves regarding Earth's unexpected recognition. As they reached his quarters, a Conclave security officer approached. "Ambassador Grant, a message awaits you from your government. It arrived via quantum transmission 20 minutes ago." Tyler accepted the secure data crystal, thanking the officer. Inside his quarters, he inserted the crystal into the communication terminal provided by Earth's diplomatic corps. The face of Secretary General Kamara appeared, her expression grave. "Ambassador Grant, your report regarding the gate's recognition has caused considerable discussion among Earth's leadership. After consultation with the Security Council and scientific advisors, we have reached a decision regarding our response." Tyler listened intently as the Secretary General outlined Earth's official position, a position that would dramatically reshape his approach to the ongoing summit and potentially alter humanity's place in galactic civilization forever. The second day of the Royal Summit began with an atmosphere of tense anticipation. Word had spread throughout the conclave that Earth's government had transmitted instructions to their ambassador, though the content remained unknown to the assembled powers. Tyler entered the Grand Hall precisely on schedule, his expression revealing nothing of Earth's decision. He noted increased security throughout the chamber, a subtle indication that the conclave leadership anticipated potentially disruptive developments. Chancellor Lorax called the session to order with formal efficiency. "Before we proceed with today's scheduled agenda, I understand Ambassador Grant wishes to address the Assembly regarding Earth's official response to recent developments." All attention focused on Tyler as he stepped onto the central speaking platform. The chamber's acoustics carried his voice clearly without amplification. "Honored sovereigns, distinguished representatives," he began, "I extend Earth's gratitude for the conclave's patience during this unprecedented situation. Following extensive consultation, my government has instructed me to communicate our official position regarding the verification gate's recognition." Tyler paused briefly, aware that his next words would potentially reshape galactic politics. He could feel the intensity of Emperor Zoltan's crystalline gaze, the shifting patterns of Queen Shalah's luminescent form, and the quiet attention of Elder Mach. Earth acknowledges the historical and constitutional significance of the gate's verification system within conclave governance. We recognize that its identification of sovereign qualities in a human representative raises complex questions regarding established protocols and precedents. The measured opening drew subtle reactions, slight relaxation among some delegations, increased attention from others. Tyler continued with careful precision. "After thorough consideration, Earth has decided neither to claim nor reject the sovereign recognition indicated by the gate. Instead, we propose an alternative approach that honors both conclave traditions and humanity's unique developmental path." Murmurs spread through the assembly as delegates attempted to interpret this unexpected position. Chancellor Lorax raised a hand for silence. Earth requests provisional sovereign status for an evaluation period of 20 standard years, Tyler announced. During this time, humanity would exercise limited voting rights on matters directly affecting our sector while deferring to established powers on broader governance issues. This arrangement would allow for gradual integration while providing opportunity to determine whether the gate's recognition represents genuine evolutionary convergence or a unique anomaly. The proposal represented a masterful diplomatic compromise, acknowledging the gate's authority without demanding immediate full recognition, offering established powers time to adjust while securing improved status for Earth, and framing the situation as a mutual opportunity for understanding rather than a constitutional crisis. Chancellor Lorax tilted his head slightly. An interesting proposition. The floor is open for initial responses. Emperor Zoltan rose first, his crystalline form catching light dramatically. The Emperor recognizes the diplomatic elegance of Earth's proposal. However, even provisional sovereign status represents a significant deviation from established integration protocols. We would need to consider carefully what precedent this might establish for future conclave expansion. Queen Shalah's patterns shifted to a formal configuration as she responded next. The Nebula Nomads appreciate Earth's measured approach. The proposed evaluation period aligns with our scientific interest in understanding this evolutionary phenomenon. We would, however, request that collaborative research into human genetic development be incorporated into any provisional arrangement. Other major powers offered similar qualified reactions, acknowledging the diplomatic skill of the proposal while expressing various concerns or conditions. Tyler noted the emerging factions, mentally calculating potential paths to the necessary consensus. When the initial round of responses concluded, Elder Mock spoke, his ancient voice carrying unexpected authority. I have witnessed 17 major reforms of conclave governance, he reminded the assembly. Each began with uncertainty and concluded with strength and unity. Earth's proposal demonstrates wisdom beyond their brief experience in galactic affairs, a willingness to honor tradition while embracing necessary evolution. I suggest the formation of a provisional status committee to develop specific implementation parameters based on Ambassador Grant's proposal. The Elder's support carried significant influence, particularly among older conclave members who respected his historical perspective. Tyler observed a subtle shift in the chamber's atmosphere, from skepticism toward cautious consideration. Chancellor Lorax surveyed the assembly. It appears Earth's proposal merits further examination. I propose we convene the suggested committee immediately, with representatives from all major factions, to develop detailed parameters for potential provisional status. The committee will report its recommendations before the summit's conclusion. The motion received sufficient support to proceed. As the summit turned to its scheduled agenda, Tyler returned to his observation platform, where Alara waited. A masterful approach, she commented quietly. Your government chose a path that offers something to everyone while surrendering nothing essential. The Secretary General believes in principled pragmatism, Tyler replied. We won't reject recognition that may benefit humanity, but neither will we demand rights we haven't yet earned through contribution to galactic governance. The committee negotiations will be crucial, Alara observed. Each faction will attempt to shape the provisional status to serve their interests. Tyler nodded. Which is why I've requested your expertise on the Earth delegation. Your understanding of conclave procedures will be invaluable during these discussions. Alara's blue skin flushed slightly darker, her species equivalent of a blush. I am honored by your trust, Ambassador. As the day's formal session proceeded through discussions of resource allocation and territorial claims, Tyler observed the complex interactions between various powers. His induction experience allowed him to perceive subtle signals and alliances that would have otherwise remained invisible, leveraging patterns established over millennia to interpret current political maneuvering. During a brief recess, Elder Mock approached Tyler's platform. You've chosen a nuanced path, Ambassador. Neither full acceptance nor rejection of what the Gate recognized in you. Earth seeks balance, Tyler responded. We have no desire to disrupt galactic governance, but neither can we ignore the potential significance of the recognition. Elder Mock's ancient eyes studied him with that penetrating gaze that seemed to evaluate on multiple levels simultaneously. The crownless king walks a narrow path between established power and revolutionary change. It has always been so. I'm not comfortable with that title, Tyler admitted. I'm a diplomat, not a monarch, crownless or otherwise. Titles matter less than actions, Elder Mock replied. History remembers what was done, not what was claimed. The Provisional Status Committee begins its work this evening. Both Emperor Zoltan and Queen Shala have appointed their most skilled negotiators. I expected nothing less. They will attempt to shape the arrangement to neutralize what they perceive as threat, the ancient being warned. The Emperor through political constraints, the Queen through scientific oversight. And what would you advise? Tyler asked, genuinely valuing the perspective of one who had observed galactic politics for millennia. Elder Mock's wrinkled face formed that now familiar almost smile. Remember why the gate recognized you, Ambassador. Not merely for what you are, but for what humanity might become. The future requires both respect for established wisdom and courage to evolve beyond it. Balance these, and you will serve both Earth and the Conclave well. With that cryptic guidance, Elder Mock departed, leaving Tyler to contemplate the complex negotiations ahead. The Provisional Status Committee convened that evening in a chamber designed specifically for high-level diplomatic negotiations. 12 representatives from major conclave powers sat around a circular table, with Tyler and Ilera representing Earth. The design deliberately eliminated notions of hierarchy or precedence, placing all participants on equal footing. Emperor Zoltan's representative, a crystalline diplomat named Zenith, opened discussions with clinical precision. We must establish clear parameters regarding voting rights. Earth's provisional status should limit participation to matters directly affecting their solar system and immediate stellar neighborhood. Such narrow constraints would defeat the purpose of sovereign recognition, countered Myril, representing Queen Shala. We propose broader participation with advisory voting on sector-wide issues, while requiring scientific exchange programs to better understand humanity's unique development. What followed was 6 hours of intense diplomatic negotiation, proposals and counterproposals, carefully worded compromises, and occasionally thinly veiled threats disguised as expressions of concern for stability. Throughout, Tyler leveraged both his diplomatic training and the insights gained through induction, identifying opportunities for balanced solutions that served Earth's interests while acknowledging legitimate conclave protocols. By midnight, an exhausted committee had drafted preliminary parameters for Earth's provisional sovereign status. Limited voting rights on matters directly affecting Earth's sector, with advisory input on broader issues. Participation in conclave scientific and cultural exchange programs, including voluntary genetic research. A 20-year evaluation period, after which permanent status would be determined. Earth representatives to receive sovereign diplomatic protocols and security considerations. Formation of a Human Development Observation Committee with representatives from major powers. Earth to gain access to Level 3 technological archives, with higher access subject to review. The draft represented a significant improvement over Earth's previous observer status, though it fell short of the full sovereign recognition the gate had indicated. Tyler recognized it as the best achievable outcome given current political realities. As the committee prepared its recommendation for presentation to the full summit, Tyler received an urgent communication from Conclave Security. A situation had developed requiring his immediate attention. He found Commander Thrix, head of Conclave Security, waiting outside the committee chamber. The tall, insectoid being's compound eyes conveyed urgency despite his species' limited facial expressions. Ambassador Grant, we've intercepted communications suggesting a potential threat to your safety, Thrix reported efficiently. An unauthorized vessel approached the Conclave station 6 hours ago, docked briefly at a maintenance port, then departed before security protocols could be completed. You believe someone infiltrated the station? Tyler asked. Confirmed. Our surveillance systems detected 3 unauthorized entities entering the diplomatic residential sector approximately 1 hour ago. Their energy signatures suggest Draziri operatives. Tyler recognized the significance immediately. The Draziri, the species whose mining scout force had been defeated by Earth when they attempted to claim Mars, maintained a nominal peace with humanity but harbored evident resentment. "Have you increased security around my quarters?" he asked. "Yes, but we believe your quarters may not be the target." Thrix's mandibles clicked in what Tyler had learned indicated concern. The infiltrators accessed environmental control systems for the Grand Hall, where tomorrow's final summit session will take place. The implication was clear: a potential attack during the most public and significant gathering of galactic leaders. "Do you have security footage of these infiltrators?" Alara asked, joining the conversation. "Limited imagery only. They employ advanced cloaking technology." Thrix projected a holographic image showing shadowy figures moving through a maintenance corridor. "We're conducting a station-wide search, but the diplomatic sector's size makes this challenging." Tyler considered the timing. Tomorrow the summit votes on Earth's provisional status. An attack during that session would not only threaten lives, but potentially destroy the diplomatic progress we've achieved. "And potentially be blamed on humans," Alara added, "creating an incident that would justify revoking any recognition granted." Tyler nodded grimly. "A convenient crisis for those who oppose Earth's improved status." "Commander, I want to review the Grand Hall's security protocols immediately. I must advise against your personal involvement, Ambassador. If Draziri operatives are targeting Earth's representation, you would be placing yourself at risk. If someone's attempting to sabotage humanity's position in the Conclave, I need to understand exactly what we're facing," Tyler insisted. "Besides, my diplomatic status places me under Conclave protection. You can provide appropriate security." Commander Thrix's compound eyes shifted in what might have been reluctant agreement. "Very well. We'll examine the Grand Hall's security systems and brief you on our countermeasures." What followed was 3 hours of intensive security analysis. Tyler, drawing on both his diplomatic training and previous experience in Earth's intelligence services, identified several vulnerabilities in the Conclave's protocols, particularly in how the ancient verification gate integrated with more modern security systems. "The gate operates on principles that predate current security paradigms," he explained to Thrix and his security team. "It creates exceptions to standard protocols that could potentially be exploited." Commander Thrix's mandibles clicked with grudging respect. "Your assessment aligns with our analysis. The infiltrators appear to be targeting the intersection between ancient and modern systems. Specifically, the verification gates override authorities. They're not planning an explosive attack or conventional assassination," Tyler concluded. "They're attempting something more sophisticated, possibly manipulating the gate itself to create diplomatic chaos." As they completed their analysis near dawn, Tyler felt the weight of responsibility settling onto his shoulders. The summit's final session would determine humanity's place in galactic governance for decades to come, and unknown operatives were positioning themselves to sabotage that defining moment. "Commander, I have a suggestion," Tyler said finally. "Rather than attempting to prevent whatever they've planned through conventional security, let's create a trap using their own plan against them." The final day of the summit arrived with palpable tension. As delegates assembled, Tyler took his position near the verification gate, his plan in motion. When Emperor Zoltan approached the gate, Tyler caught his subtle nod. The Emperor had agreed to cooperate despite their differences. The moment came when 3 cloaked figures emerged from hidden positions. Their devices activated, attempting to override the gate's systems. Commander Thrix's forces moved instantly, but the infiltrators had expected this. What they hadn't expected was Tyler stepping directly into the gate, placing his hand on its ancient surface. The knowledge from his induction guided him as he spoke words in the gate's original programming language. The gate pulsed with golden light, extending a field that froze the saboteurs in place while simultaneously displaying their true identities. Not Draziri operatives, but agents of a secretive faction within Emperor Zoltan's own government. "The Sovereign Preservation Corps," Elder Mach announced, approaching with surprising speed for one so ancient. "They've worked for millennia to maintain the genetic aristocracy, even without their emperor's knowledge." Emperor Zoltan's crystalline form flickered with genuine shock. "This was not by my order," he declared. "These extremists acted against my explicit directives." As the conspirators were taken into custody, the gate continued glowing. Its voice resonated throughout the chamber. Sovereign action confirmed. The crownless king has demonstrated true authority. Chancellor Lorax called for order. The attempted sabotage has been prevented through Ambassador Grant's actions. We shall now vote on Earth's provisional status. In the wake of the foiled plot, the vote passed with unprecedented support. Earth received provisional sovereign status with expanded rights beyond what the committee had originally proposed, including full voting authority on sector-wide matters and accelerated access to technological archives. As the summit concluded, Elder Mock approached Tyler one final time. You acted as a true sovereign today, not through birthright or engineering, but through wisdom and courage. I just did what was necessary to protect both Earth's interests and the Conclave's integrity, Tyler replied. And that, Ambassador, is precisely why the Gate recognized you. Elder Mock smiled fully for the first time. The crownless king serves not through dominance, but through balance, finding harmony between tradition and necessary change. 6 months later, Tyler stood in the United Nations General Assembly, concluding his report on humanity's new position in galactic politics. Through unexpected circumstances, Earth has gained unprecedented opportunity to shape our future among the stars. The provisional sovereign status we've been granted carries both privilege and responsibility to prove that humanity deserves its place at the galactic table not through genetic engineering or ancient bloodlines, but through our natural capacity for adaptation, innovation, and cooperation. The Gates' recognition had indeed changed everything, not by crowning Tyler king, but by revealing humanity's potential to evolve beyond the limitations others had accepted for millennia. As Elder Mock had predicted, the crownless king had altered the course of Conclave history, opening paths not just for Earth, but for countless other civilizations to achieve recognition based on merit rather than manipulation. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.